Magic and Mystery in Tibet by Alexandra David-Neel. Chapter 8, Psychic Phenomena in Tibet, How Tibetans Explain Them. In the preceding chapter, I've already mentioned some incidents that may be classified as psychic phenomena. It may be useful to take up the subject again, for the fame which Tibet enjoys in foreign countries is largely due to the belief that prodigies happen there as plentifully as wildflowers grow in the fields. Whatever certain people may think about the matter, strange events are far from being unusual in Tibet, and it is good to bear in mind that the observations which I have condensed into a few pages are the result of researches which lasted more than 10 years. The fascination exercised by Tibet as an abode of sages and magicians dates from a time long back. Even before the Buddha, Indians turned with devout awe to the Himalayas, and many who were the extraordinary stories about the mysterious cloud-enshrined northern country extending beyond their mighty snowy peaks. The Chinese also seem to have been impressed by the strangeness of Tibetan wilds. Amongst others, the legend of her great mystic philosopher Lao Tzu relates that at the end of his long career, the master riding an ox started for the mysterious land, crossed its border, and never returned. The same thing is sometimes told about Bodhidharma and some of his Chinese disciples, followers of the Buddhist sect of meditation. Even nowadays, one may often meet Indian pilgrims on the paths that climb towards the passes through which one enters Tibet, dragging themselves along as if in a dream, hypnotized, it seems, by an overpowering vision. When asked the motive of their journey, most of them can only answer that they wish to die on Tibetan ground. And too often the cold climate, the high altitude, fatigue, and starvation help them to realize their wish. How can we explain this magnetic power in Tibet? There is no doubt that the reputation enjoyed by the land of snow for being a country of wizards and magicians, a ground on which miracles daily occur, is the main cause of its attraction over the majority of its worshippers. But now one may ask for what reason Tibet has been credited with being the chosen land of the occult lore and supernormal phenomena. Perhaps the most obvious cause is that already mentioned, the extreme remoteness of the country, enclosed between formidable mountain ranges and immense deserts. Men compelled to abandon cherished ideas incompatible with their stern prosaic surroundings are eager to transplant them to a more favorable fairyland. As a last resort, they build gardens in heaven and superterrestrial paradises to shelter their daydreams. But how much more readily will they seize upon the opportunity of lodging them in an earthly country? Tibet offers that opportunity. It has all the physical features of a true wonderland. I do not think it is exaggerated to say that its landscapes surpass in all respects those imagined by the fanciful architects of gods and demons' worlds. No description can convey the least idea of the solemn majesty, the serene beauty, the awe-inspiring wildness, the entrancing charm of the finest Tibetan scenes. Often, when tramping across these solitary heights, one feels like an intruder. Unconsciously, one slackens pace, lowers one's voice, and words of apology for one's unwarranted boldness come to the lips, ready to be uttered at the first sight of a legitimate Superman master on whose ground one has trespassed. common Tibetan villagers, and herdsmen, though born amidst these surroundings, are strongly influenced by them. Translated by their primitive mind, their impressions take the form of these fantastic demigods and spirits of 100 kinds, with whom they have densely populated the solitudes of Tibet, and whose whimsical demeanor is an inexhaustible theme of a rich folklore. On the other hand, just as the Chaldean shepherds of yore, observing the starry sky on the shore of the Euphrates, laid the foundation of astronomy, so Tibetan anchorites and itinerant shamans have long pondered over the mysteries of their bewitching country, and noted the phenomena which there found a favorable ground. A strange art had its origin in their contemplations, and many centuries ago the magicians from the northern trans-Himalayan land were already known and held in high repute in India. Now, in spite of its remoteness, Tibet is not altogether inaccessible. This I can well testify. I have several times reached the southern tableland through different Himalayan passes, traveled for years in its eastern provinces and the northern Changthang, and during my last journey I crossed the whole country from its southeastern border to Lhasa. Any robust man or woman who does not fear hardships might do the same, but for the policy which closes Tibet. It is certain that especially since the introduction of Buddhism, numbers of Indians, Nepalese, Chinese, and other travelers have visited Tibet, seen its bewildering sights, and heard about the supernormal powers with which its dubtubs are credited. Amongst them, a few have probably approached the lamas or bonpas, magicians, and listened to the mystic doctrines of contemplative hermits. Their travelers' tales, which inevitably grew and amplified as they were circulated, must have greatly contributed, together with the causes I have mentioned and other less apparent ones, to create around Tibet the glamorous atmosphere it now enjoys. We must conclude that the renown of Tibet as the land in which prodigies flourish is entirely based on delusion. No, let me read the sentence again. Okay. Must we conclude that the renown of Tibet as the land in which prodigies flourish is entirely based on delusion? This would be a great error, as the uncritical acceptance of all native tales or of those lately conceived by the fertile brains of some facetious Westerners. The best way is to be guided by the rather surprising opinion of the Tibetans themselves regarding miraculous events. None in Tibet deny that such events may take place, but no one regards them as miracles, according to the meaning of that term in the West, that is to say, supernatural events. Indeed, Tibetans do not recognize any supernatural agent. The so-called wonders they think are as natural as common daily events, and depend on the clever handling of the little-known laws and forces. All facts, which in other countries are considered miraculous or in any way ascribed to the arbitrary interference of beings belonging to other worlds, are considered by Tibetan adepts of the secret lore as psychic phenomena. In a general way, Tibetans distinguish two categories of psychic phenomena. Number one, the phenomena which are unconsciously produced either by one or several individuals, in that case, the author or authors of the phenomenon acting unconsciously, it is obvious that he does not aim at a fixed result. Number 2, the phenomena produced consciously with a view of bringing about a prescribed result. These are generally, but not always, the work of a single person. That person may be a man or may belong to any one of the 6 classes of sentient beings which lamas acknowledge as existing in our world. Whosoever be its author, the phenomenon is produced by the same process in accordance with some natural laws. There is no miracle. It may be of interest to remark here that Tibetans are staunch determinists. Each volition, they believe, is brought about by a number of causes, of which some are near and others extremely remote. I shall not lay stress on that point, which is outside the present subject. However, the reader must bear in mind that according to Tibetans, each phenomenon, consciously or unconsciously generated, as well as each of our bodily or mental actions, is the fruit of manifold combined causes. Amongst these causes, the first and more easily recognized, more easily discernible ones are those which have arisen in the mind of the doer of the action, the conscious will of doing it. To these causes, Tibetans assimilate those which, even unknown to the doer, have put into motion some forces which have led him to perform the action. Both kinds are styled Gyu, G-Y-U, immediate or principal cause. Then come the outside causes, not originating with the doer, which may have helped the accomplishment of the action. These are called Kyen, K-Y-E-N. And there's a footnote here. And it says, as an instance, the seed is the Rigyu, R-G-Y-U, of the plant. The soil and the various substances which exist in it, the water, air, sun, the gardener who has sown the seed, etc., etc., are Rikyen, R-K-Y-E-N, pronounced Yu and Kyen. The remote causes are often represented by their descendants. These descendants are the present conditions which exist as the effects of bodily or mental actions which have been done in the past, but not necessarily done by the doer of the present act itself. So when concentration of thoughts is mentioned here below, as the direct cause of a phenomenon, one must remember first that according to Tibetan mystics, this concentration is not spontaneous, but determined. And secondly, that beside the direct apparent cause, there exist in the background a number of secondary causes, which are equally necessary to bring about the phenomenon.